Hi.
How are you? Is Wim coming?
He may listen in, yes.
Okay, yeah. I'm trying to do the same
Sally,
thing.
is that okay if he listens
Sure,
in?
absolutely. Yeah. The more the
Okay.
merrier. Okay, welcome everybody. This is our Sunday Zoom meeting for week 2 of our Play of the Hand class. This week we covered finessing and using the trump suit, the value of the trump suit. So that's what we're going to review today. The first thing I wanted to do though was go back and review a little bit of what we started out with the first week, and that was making a plan. Making a plan, because really the essence of this entire 4-week class that you're attending is on this sheet of paper. The making a plan part of Play of the Hand. That's the most important part. That's the thing that you need to do every time. As soon as the lead comes down and you see the dummy, is to pause and make a plan. We discussed the fact that the book describes this a little bit differently than this ABC. Our textbook uses PLAN for plan, but it's the same thing as the ABCs. They just use different words. Don't ask me why they changed. I don't know, but it's a little mnemonic device. The first part in either one that you look at is assess the situation. How many tricks do you have to take? How many tricks can you see that you have? And the difference between those two is what you need to plan for. So if our contract is 3 no trump, we need to take 9 tricks. If we're at 2 diamonds, we need to take 8 tricks. With 4 hearts, we need to take 10 tricks. So the first thing is, how many tricks do we need to take? And then we need to figure out how many tricks can we take. And it's different in doing that assessment. It's different if you're playing no trump or if you're playing a suit contract. In no trump, we look at winners, because that's what we have control of over in no trump is winners. The high card always wins. Whatever suit is led, the high card in that suit wins. So we need to count winners there. When we're playing a suit contract, the high cards are going to win, but we can also trump losers that we have in our hand or throw them on high cards. You can't do that in no trump. So in a suit contract, what we look at is losers. How many tricks do we think we're going to lose? And for losers, we always look at it from the point of view of the declarer. We're going to talk in just a few minutes about why we do that. But we always look at it from the point of view of the declarer. And so the difference between what we have to have and what we do have is what we need to figure out, the tricks that we need to figure out how to get. Usually we're missing 1, sometimes 2, sometimes a lot, but usually it's 1 or 2. And so then we need to do the second part of this, which is browsing the checklist. And on the checklist, which is the way we can develop tricks, there's really only 4 things on there. And I don't care how sophisticated in bridge you get, and there's a lot of variations on these things and combinations of these things and hold up plays and end plays and squeeze plays, a lot of stuff that's down the road to learn. But all of them are just variations of these 4 ways that you can develop extra tricks. So the first thing is finessing, and we're going to talk about finessing. Last week, we talked about promotion and length. Promotion is just where you have the king, queen, jack, 10. When the ace is gone, all of those cards move up. So if the ace is gone, that means the king, queen, jack, 10 are all good. Whatever's left, those are good. Whatever high cards you have left, everybody just moves up a step. Promotion is where you have a long suit. You may not have high cards in the suit, but you have a long suit. this is particular, well, first, it's most useful in our trump suit because that's usually our long suit. But when we play a no trump contract, frequently we can use length to develop other tricks, because if we have an 8 or 9 card suit in no trump, even though we're missing a lot of the top cards, after we play that suit several times, all of the last cards are going to be good. Even if they're not high cards, those cards are going to be good. So promotion and length are two other ways to develop extra tricks. And then the fourth way to develop extra tricks is trumping and dummy. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So today we're talking about 2 of our 4 possibilities, finessing and trumping and dummy. And then the last thing that we need to think about, and we're going to we've already talked some about this, but we spend more time talking about this in our last 2 classes, is consider the order that we do these things in, because we need to develop extra tricks. And sometimes we need to do one thing first, and sometimes we need to do another thing first in order to develop those tricks. So usually these are the rules that we usually follow. First of all, we usually draw trump. As a matter of fact, you should plan on drawing trump first, unless you've got a reason not to draw trump first. And we're going to talk today about some of the reasons you might not draw trump first. But nearly always, you are going to draw the trump first. That's nearly always the first step. The second step in figuring out the order that you do things in, and this has to do with both length and promotion, is worrying about the transportation, how you get back and forth from dummy to declarer. And one of the ways you do is to play the high card from the short side first. So if you have the king and 2 small in one hand, and you've got the ace, queen, jack, XXX on the other side, you play the king first. Then you play small and go over to the ace, queen, jack, whatever it is. If you do it in a different order, if you play the high cards on the long side first, and then with the king, you've cut off your transportation. As long as you can see there are ways to go back and forth in the hand, it may not make a difference. You may be able to get back to the good tricks that are on the long side. But it's just best to get in the good habit from the beginning of setting up your suit so that you take the high card from the short side first, so that that sets up the long side of your suit. Another rule that we usually follow is to develop the extra tricks early. Because if we let the opponents get in, if we take our high cards, they then are going to be able to cash their high cards. So we need to develop whatever tricks we need to develop before we let the opponents cash the smaller high cards, the ones they're not really entitled to. So usually we develop extra tricks early by losing whatever we need to lose. The last thing for considering the order that we talk about is being in the right place at the right time. So if we need to finesse by leading something from dummy, we need to be sure that we have a way to get to dummy to lead the trick that we need to lead to finesse. So this is all part of the plan. How many do we need? What are the ways we're going to develop those extra tricks? And then what order do we need to do things in? What has to happen in order for us to be able to develop those tricks? So that's the making the plan part. And we just always go back to this when we're talking about how to do play of the hand. This is the essence of what to do. Okay, let's go on over to finesses then. Okay, finesses, talked about finesses in life. You know, if you want to finesse someone to get something, you want to get them to give up something that they might not want to give up. That's what a finesse is. And in bridge, it's the same thing. What we want to do is we want to make one of our high cards good that is not necessarily good. The opponents have a higher card out. That's what a finesse is. And the easiest example to look at is where we have, very simple. We have the king small on one side. We have the 3-2 on the other side. This suit, we've only got 4 cards in the suit. We're not going to make a lot of extra tricks in this suit. We have a chance to get one and only one trick here. And we only have one chance to get that trick. Well, we have 2 chances, actually. If they help you and lead the ace of this suit, good. Then your king is good. But the opponents usually don't do that. And if you take the defense class next month, you will learn not to do that. So they very rarely do that for you. So what you have to do is you have to figure out a way to make your king good. And the way to make the king good is to lead a small card towards the king. In finessing, you always lead a small card towards the card that you want to make good, the one that you're hoping will win. It's a 50-50 proposition. It's nearly always a 50-50 proposition in finessing. It's either going to be good or it's not going to be good. In the case of 2 small opposite the king small, you are going to win the king if the ace is on which side?
Left.
The
Left.
left side or the west side, if we're considering we're in the south at the bottom. The left side, the west side. If the ace comes before the king, you will win because you will play small. If the person in the west plays the ace, fine, your king is good. If the person in the west plays low, you play your king. And as long as they played low because they didn't have the ace, your king wins. If the ace is over on the other side, if it's in the east side, you're going to lose. The ace will cover your king. But the ace in that case was always going to be good. It was going to win. Your king could not win. So it's just a 50-50 proposition of what's going to happen. The same thing is true if you look at this scenario. Here we have the ace queen small on one side and the 5-3-2 on the other side. Here in our case now, we have the ace and the queen and we're missing the king. In the first example, we had the chance just of winning one trick. The king might or might not win. In this case, we have a chance of winning 2 tricks. We're always going to win the ace, but we may make our queen good. And it's the same scenario as above. We are going to lead a small card towards the card that we want to win. And in this case, we want the ace to win. I mean, the queen to win.
Queen.
The queen to win. So we're going to lead a small card from our hand towards the ace queen. That's what we always do in a finesse. We lead the small card towards the one that we want to win. And this time, who do we hope has the king?
West.
West.
Same thing. We still want the hand before our hopefully winning card to have the card that we're worried about. So we want this hand over here in the west on the left to have the king. If we play small and they play small, we play the queen. That's what we hope to win. We hope our queen wins. We play that. If West did have the king, then our queen will win. If West did not have the king, we play our queen and the king will cover it. So our queen will not win. We still have the ace, that's still going to win, but we're not able to get 2 tricks in this suit. We only got 1 trick in this suit. But as long as the king is over here in the west on the left, we'll have 2 tricks. Let's look at this scenario. Exactly the same thing here. Now we're missing the queen, but it's the same thing. We want the queen to be in the west on the left side. We lead a small card towards the jack. The only difference now is that we have 2 for sure winners in this suit, and we would like to get a 3rd winner in this suit. And in this case, we can afford, if we want to to lead the ace first, to win with the ace first, just in case there's a singleton queen and it drops. When we only have 6 in the suit, the chance of there being a singleton queen is not very great. It's probably not going to happen, but you never know. Doesn't really impact it a lot if we lead or win or don't win the ace first. It's still just 50-50 as to where the queen is. The only advantage it gives us is if there was a singleton queen that drops under the ace, which the chances of that are, I don't know what they are, but pretty small. But it doesn't hurt anything as long as you can get back to your hand so that you can lead the finesse again and actually finesse this time. So if you have that luxury, you can do that. But if not, you just lead small and put the jack in if you don't see the queen. Yes, there was a question.
Sally, if you had more cards in the dummy, say 4 or 5, would you wouldn't take the ace first, you'd go immediately to the jack?
No, the more cards I have between my hand and the dummy hand, the more likely I am to play the ace first. When I only have 6 of them, there's 7 out.
Okay.
And for the queen to be, that would have to be a 6-1 split, and the queen would have to be in the 1 side. Well, the chances of that are just not very good.
Mm-hmm.
If they had done some bidding, like somebody had bid that suit over and over, I might decide, well, they're not split very good. Even then, out of the 7 cards that are out, I would have to have the queen singleton on the west side. The chances of all that happening are not very good. However, if I have 8 or 9 in the suit, then the chances of the queen being a singleton is a lot better. If there are only 4 out, the chances of a 3-1 split is the most likely split. And so the chances of the queen being the singleton is about 25% of the 3-1 split. You see that? So the chances are better. So then I would definitely want to play the ace first to get rid of it.
Okay.
We'll learn a little bit later about finessing that it does make a difference how many you have in the suit. We don't really talk about it in this chapter. It's later, but I'll go ahead and, since you brought it up, mention it. There's a rule called with 8 ever, with 9 never. That means with 8 in the suit, you never finesse for the queen, and that's the scenario we're talking about here. With 9 in the suit, you always play for the drop. I'm sorry, with 8.
When you say that, play for the drop,
you play the ace, and then you play the king,
yeah,
and assume that the queen will fall. That
yes,
it's a 2-2 split, and that
Okay.
the queen will fall as part of that. So if you
Mhm.
have 9, if there's just 4 out, your odds are better if you play the ace and then you play the king and you don't finesse,
Okay.
because it's either 2-2, in which case they both fall, and the chances of
Mhm.
that is about 49%. It's about 49%, it's 3-1, it's 40-something%, it's 2-2. If it's 3-1, there's still the 25% chance that the queen is on the side with 1. So your odds are better. They're about 55% that the queen will fall if you have 9 cards and you play the ace and then you play the king. But if you only have 8, your odds are not that good that the queen is going to fall if you play the ace and then the king. So in that case, you should finesse. So if we had 8 or fewer, and we have this situation where we have the ace, king, jack, we're always going to finesse for the queen. So in this case, we would play small. If they put in the queen, we played the ace or king, and we have our 3 tricks. If they play small, we put in the jack. And as long as they had the queen, our jack will win. If east, the right hand opponent has the queen, the jack loses. Then we still have the 2 tricks that we started with. Sometimes we repeat a finesse. In this case, we're trying to finesse the ace and make our king, queen good. Okay? If the person on the left in the West has the ace, they're kind of stuck. They're going to get their ace at some point. But if they take their ace right away, our king and queen are going to be good, right? You know, with this scenario right here, where we have three, the king, queen small on one side and three small on the other side, we should definitely get one trick, right?
Right.
Either the king or queen's going to be good, but we might get two tricks. And the way we get two tricks is if West has the ace. We lead small. If the ace does not get played, we played the king. If the ace was over here, the king will win. We come back to our hand and we finesse again. We lead another small one through the West hand, and if West has the ace, West is stuck. West can play the ace and make our queen good, or West can hold up, in which case our queen is going to be good right now. Do you see that? So this is called repeating a finesse. And if the ace is on the correct side, if it's in the West, then we will get two tricks out of this suit. If it's in the East, we're only going to get one trick because we will play small, they will play small, we'll put in the king or the queen, whichever, and the ace will take it. And so then
But West wouldn't normally play the ace at the first round, would they, unless they had a singleton?
No, they wouldn't, unless they had a singleton.
Okay.
But see, that's why if West has it, and it's not really that we're doing anything, it's just that we're playing this the correct way. If they have the ace, we get two tricks if West does, if we play it correctly. If East has the ace, we just get one trick.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, let's look at this scenario. This scenario is where we have the king missing, but we have the queen jack. So in this situation, we're going to finesse, and they are either going to play their king or not. We're going to put in the smaller card. If they put in the king, we win with the ace, and the queen jack is good. Our chances here of getting two tricks is very good, because as soon as the king is gone, we get the other two tricks. But we can win three tricks if the king is over on this side, on the West side. But we have to have a way to come back to our hand so that we can finesse again. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Okay.
Sally, do you always want to finesse towards the lower high card first?
Yeah.
Like the jack, you're finessing towards the
That's
jack in
right.
this
And
case?
there's examples here coming up. This next example, let's look at this. If there's two cards missing, if we have the ace, queen, 10 on one side, we're missing the king and the jack. So the king and the jack could both be in the East. The king and the jack could both be in the West. The king they could be split with the king in one in East and the jack in West, or the jack in the West and the king in the East, either way. So it could be any of those things. The way to maximize your chances of making two of these good is to play low and put in the lower of these first. That way, if the king is the one that's over here and the jack, if the king and jack are both on the East side, you're going to lose them both. Can't do anything about that. But if they're split, which is more likely, And it's also a possibility they're both in the west side, in which case you get all three. But if they're split, the best option for you is that you put in the 10 and they have to put in the king. Now your ace and queen are both good. So that's why you finesse towards the lower one first of what you're missing. So if you're missing 2, you put in the lower one. The same situation is here, except that these now you're missing 2 that are together, but the premise is still the same. The theory of how you do this is still the same. You lead low and put in either the jack or the 10. They're the same. And you're probably going to lose one in this case. But then when you come back and repeat the finesse, now you should get 2 tricks. Unless the king and jack, queen are both in the east. Then you're going to lose 2 tricks. So nearly always, we are going to, when we finesse, if we're missing 1 or if we're missing 2, doesn't make any difference. We lead small towards the lower of the missing cards. Okay, I'm going to skip over some of these because I want to skip down to this situation. Let's look at this situation. Here we have the ace and 2 small on one side and the queen and 2 small on the other side. What do you think would be the best way to play this to maximize the chances that we can get 2 tricks out of this? We're definitely going to get 1, the ace. But what is the best way to get 2 tricks here?
Play low from the dummy towards the queen.
Yes. We always, the fact that the ace is in one side and the queen is in the other side is kind of misleading. In this case, it doesn't even make any difference if the ace is there or not. The ace is just going to take a trick. It's going to take a trick. Our question is, where is the king in relationship to the queen? Where do we want it to be in this case?
What? Wait, no. East.
We want it to be on the right side in the east hand. We always want our missing honor to be before the honor that we want to win. Well, in this case, we want the queen to win. So we want the king to come in the hand before we play the queen. That way, they have to make a decision about whether or not to play the queen, the king. If they don't play the king and they have it, we play the queen, our queen is going to win. So when you have this situation where you have the ace on one side and the queen on the other, just play small towards the queen. And you can either play your ace first or not play your ace first. It doesn't make any difference. The ace is going to win. The way to guarantee that you do not win 2 tricks in this suit is to lead the queen. If you lead the queen, this person is just going to cover the queen with the king if they have the king. And then you have to play your ace. Now you only have 1 trick in this suit. You've eliminated any possibility of getting the second trick in this suit. If you play the queen and this person does not have the king, and so you play low, if this person had the king, you're still going to lose the queen. So the definite way not to win this is to play the queen first when you're in this scenario, when you have an unprotected queen. The only correct way to play that is to lead small towards the queen. We're in a different scenario, though, if we have protection for our queen. If we have protection for our queen. And so what we need to look at here is the queen alone, or can we lose the queen and promote 2 other suits? And so in this case, it would be correct to lead the queen. Because then if they cover with the king, if they have it in the west side, which they should do, we'll learn in our defense class that you should cover an honor with an honor, make the declarer play 2 of their honors to get 1 of yours. So they should cover the queen with the king and then play the ace. You play the ace. Now your jack and 10 are good. So in determining which way you go on this, it depends whether or not you have tricks in your hand that you can promote below the queen. If you don't, you just play towards the queen. But if you have other cards that are going to be promoted, then you lead the queen or the jack or the 10. Doesn't make any difference. So they're the same card, equal in value. You play one of those first and get them to cover with the king.
Now, Sally, can I just ask a question there? I know you'll talk about this in defense, but should the opponents on the west side cover a 10 with an honor? Is that typically done?
Yes, because that's an honor.
Okay.
That's an honor. So cover an honor with an honor.
No.
That's nearly always the rule because it eliminates 2. You're getting rid of 2 of their honors. And
Okay.
yes, if it's the 10 or the jack, you're not as happy to do it,
Mhm.
Because you don't know where the other ones are.
Yeah.
Could be in your partner's hand, but at least you've eliminated 2 of theirs and maybe promoted one of your partners.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's most of what we have about finessing. So the important parts of finessing are that you lead towards the card you want to win. Whatever card you want to win, you're missing a higher card. You lead towards the card that you hope will win. And you hope that the card is in the hand before your hand, before the hand where your card that you want to win is. If that's the case, your card is going to win. If that's not the case, your card will lose, but your card was always going to lose. This is a 50-50 proposition. And I keep repeating that because 50-50, while those aren't terrible odds, are not as good odds as you can figure out if you are trying to promote cards. Then you can see if you get rid of something, you can promote other cards. Or if you're looking at length, if you have 8 or 9 cards in a suit, you can figure that the odds are better than 50-50, that you will be able to drop some cards. So it's only when you have no other choice about how to do it, and that's your only option, that you look towards the 50-50 shot. It's better odds than nothing, but it's not the best odds that are out there. So don't always go first to the finesse. Go to the finesse when that's the only chance you have, this is to developing one of the other cards that you need. All right, now let's talk about everybody's favorite. And by the way, I would really suggest that you look through the examples, the exercises that are at the end of the chapter in the finesse chapter, because those are really good about kind of letting you think about now which card should we lead, how many tricks may I get if this finesse wins, and what's the best way to lead to make that work. Those exercises are really good at the end of the chapter. Now, though, let's move on to our next chapter, which is handling the trump suit, using trumps to develop extra tricks. And this is kind of tricky because a lot of people just assume that trumping is always good. Trumping on either side is good. And trumping is good if you have a lot of trump in your hand and you have shortness in your hand, if you're declarer, then those trumps will keep the opponents from winning tricks. So they're valuable to that extent. They keep if you're short in your hand, they keep the opponents from cashing good tricks. But it doesn't develop extra tricks for you. Doesn't make anything extra for you. So that there's two principles in this chapter that we need to pay attention to. The first one is that we're looking at trumps, and the reason trumps are valuable is they let you eliminate losers. That's what we count when we have a trump suit. When we're looking at a suit contract, we're counting losers. So there's two ways to eliminate losers. One is to ruff on the dummy side, ruff on the short side of your trump suit. So wherever the short side is, rough there. The second thing is that you can discard losers on winners. So when you have a loser in your hand and you have winners on the dummy, on the board, you can take losers out of your hand and put them on winners and dummy. So those are the two principles for using the trump suit. So let's talk about those separately. The first example is here. Okay. Here in dummy, we have a heart suit where we have the 4-3-2 and a club suit where we have the 4-3-2. And in the declarer's suit, we have the ace, king, queen, jack, 10, and the 5 of clubs. Now, when we look at these two suits and we're figuring out how many losers we have, how many losers do we have in these two suits?
0 in hearts.
0 in
and-
hearts.
And in clubs.
And how many in clubs?
What?
1 in clubs. From the point of view of the declarer's hand, we've got 1 loser in clubs. So we're just going to lose 1 club trick, and then the rest of our trump will be good. But let's contrast this now with this situation. Here we have the same scenario, except we've flipped the club suit. Now we have the 4-3-2 of clubs in our hand and the 5 of clubs in dummy. So now let's count the losers that we have in this hand. How many losers do we count now in this hand?
3.
3. We now have 3 club losers. Before we just had 1. Now we've got 3 losers. So in order to get rid of those losers, what we want to have happen is we want to trump clubs using the small hearts over in dummy's hand. That develops extra tricks for us. Before, when we were looking at the fact that we had a singleton club in our hand, we already had 5 winners in hearts. So trumping with a heart in the first scenario doesn't get us any extra tricks. We already had 5 tricks and 1 loser. It didn't do anything about getting rid of a loser. But if we can use the trumps on the short side to get rid of losers in our hands, we have developed extra tricks. So we still have to lose a club. They're still going to get like the ace of clubs. They take that. But then we are going to lead another club as soon as we can and trump with one of the small ones in dummy. As soon as we can, get back to our hand, and we'll have to get back some other way. We will lead another club and trump in dummy. Or we could even come back to our hand. For instance, we play the first club and lose it. And now, whatever they lead back, we win. And now we lead another club and trump with a small heart. Now we can lead a second heart to get back to our hand and win with the ace, king, queen, jack, or 10. Now we lead our last club, our last losing club, over and trump with one of the little hearts that are still left on that hand. So now, instead of having led the ace, king, queen, jack, 10, and having the 4-3-2 go away, fall under those high cards, we have used those little cards, because we had shortness on the dummy side, to develop extra tricks. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
It does, but it always happens to me though, that I get over trumped.
Well, you could, and you do need to watch out for that. We talk in the last part of this chapter about don't send a boy to do a man's job.
Mm.
Watch out what cards you have and hang on to them. In this situation, we can see only 4 clubs, right? So there's 9 clubs out. We should not get trumped very quickly. You know, if they didn't ever bid the club suit, the chances of them being split like, 8-1 or 7-2 are not very good. It's not, astronomical odds, but not very good. It's probably only like 2 or 3, 4%, something like that. We can be pretty sure we're not going to get over roughed in this scenario where we have more of a suit and they have less of the suit. That's when we need to worry about them over roughing. In this case, we can't do anything about it. A lot of times, though, we'll have a high card on the short side, and then we might as well trump with that if we have it to avoid the possibility of them over roughing us. If we had the 9-8-7, and if we had the 9-8-2 over here, we might as well put in the 9 or the 8 because we don't need those. We've got all good cards on the other side.
Yeah.
But it is a concern. You do kind of need to pay attention to that as you're making your plan. That's all part of trying to look down the road as you're making your plan. Oh, let me see here. Where am I? Okay, let's look at a hand where we can actually see this in action. The bid here is 4 hearts. 4 hearts. And the opening lead was the ace of diamonds right here. So let's look here between these 2 hands. How many, and what are we going to count here? Losers or winners on a 4-heart contract?
Losers.
Losers. So let's look at the spade suit. Do we have any losers there?
No.
No. How about the heart suit? Any losers in hearts?
No.
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 We've got the ace, king, queen, and we've got 10. So the ace, king, queen knock out everything that's possible. So we have all the winners in hearts, no losers. How about in diamonds? How many losers do we have?
3.
3. Looking at it from the point of view of declarer, who is down here. We've got 3 losers in diamonds. And how about in clubs? How many losers do we have?
1.
1.
So that's too many, right? We have 3 losers in diamonds and we have 1 loser in clubs. Hang on just a second. My screen is giving me a little problem here. Okay, so what can we do about this?
Play the ace of clubs and then get back over to your hand and take the 10 and trump in dummy.
Exactly. We have to look for shortness in dummy. Do we have in diamonds where we have 3 losers? Do we have any shortness in dummy?
No.
No.
We can't do anything about diamonds. We've got to have shortness somewhere to trump something. Well, we don't have, we've got, those diamonds are a lost cause. So the only possibility is the club. We're short in clubs on the dummy side. That's where we want to be short. And so we pull the ace and then we lead a club and trump it in dummy. Now, we need to worry about, do we draw our trump first? Or do we trump the club first?
Trump the club first,
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you're
Trump the
short.
club first? Why would we do that?
Why would we do, well, they have a lot of clubs, so you're more at, you're probably not going to be in danger of your 10 being trumped.
That's true. That's true. But there is a slight risk. Do we need to even incur that slight risk? What would be the disadvantage of pulling our trump first?
Well, you've probably no disadvantage
Right.
because you have enough
We've got
in
plenty.
dummy.
We've got
Yeah.
plenty.
Got
When
plenty.
we don't pull our trump first is when we need to save trump in dummy so that we can trump using the small ones, like that example we looked at just a few minutes ago. We have to keep those little ones in dummy, that 4-3-2 of hearts, in that earlier scenario. We want to use them to trump. But in this case, we might as well pull their trump in. Then we can still play the ace and we'll still have plenty of trump in dummy left to trump. That's where we consider the order, that's part of our plan. That's where we're considering the order we do things in. And if there's no reason to hold up, and in this case, there's not, because we've got plenty of trump. We can easily pull trump and still have them left. Let's look at another scenario. In this situation, we're playing with a 4 spade contract, and the jack of hearts is being led. So let's look at this one now. Are we going to count losers or winners?
losers.
Losers,
Losers. So let's look at spades. Do we have any losers in spades?
none,
No,
None. Do we have any losers in hearts?
no,
no,
Do we have any losers in diamonds?
yeah,
yes, 3.
three,
Three losers in diamonds, and any losers in clubs?
1,
1. So that's still too many. 3 diamonds and 1 club. That's too many losers, right? So we need to get rid of 1 loser, at least 1 loser. How can we do that?
take out trump first,
Okay.
and
Then what are we
then,
going to do?
and then play your diamond, and you lose 1, and then you can trump, lose 2, and then the third one trump.
Very good. Can you see that in clubs, we have equal length on both sides. We've got 3 and 3. So we can't get rid of a loser there. We can't do anything about that. We have to have shortness somewhere to get rid of a loser. And so where we have shortness is on the diamond side. We've got 2 over there. But we're still going to have to lose 2. But then the third one we can trump. And you're exactly right that we do want to go ahead and pull our trump first, because again, we have plenty of trump this time. We don't have to worry about losing out to trump. We've got plenty of trump in order to make that good.
Plus they have a singleton in spades. If spades somehow got led, they could trump a spade.
Well, spades are trump in this case.
Oh, spades are trump, not hearts. Okay,
Yeah, right.
never mind.
We're good. We're good on that. Yeah. Yep. And that's
They led the
another
heart.
kind of point, that even though we've got the ace, king of hearts, and we could trump a third heart, that doesn't help us, does it? Because that we weren't counting as a loser already. It's,
Right.
it keeps them from winning a third heart. That's why we only counted 2 losers in hearts, right? It's hard when you first start doing this to remember that you always count from the point of view of the declarer, and you
Mhm.
always look for shortness in dummy. That trumping on the declarer side doesn't get you extra tricks. I see people a lot of times coming back and trumping something in their hand. You know, like that's doing something. It's not doing anything. Those tricks were already good. Those were already winners. It doesn't hurt, but it's not getting rid of a loser. And that's what you need to worry about when you're playing a trump contract, is count your losers first, and then figure out a way to get rid of the losers.
Yeah, that's taken me a while to understand, Sally, but I do understand it now, that trumping in your hand, declare, doesn't give you an additional
No,
trick.
that's not an extra trick. A lot
Right.
of that's a lot of times people are thinking, oh, I've got, a void in my hand. That's a good thing. I can trump there. Well, yeah, you can. They're not going to get any tricks in that, so you don't have any losers in that suit. But it's not a way that you can develop extra tricks. So that's an important thing to know. In your book, and I'd really suggest that you look in your book through the rest of these examples, because there's some examples in there of when you start leading trump, like you only have 8 trump, and you start leading them and see that you have a bad split. Well, then you might figure out, like you have 9, and if you got a 4-0 split and you only have 4 on the dummy side, you need to figure out that you need to wait. Go ahead and draw 3 trump, but leave 1 over there to do what you need to do with the last one. You're at least eliminating a lot of the possibility that they'll be able to trump in by leading trump 2 or 3 times first. But watch out to make sure that you keep enough trump in dummy to eliminate the losers that you need to worry about eliminating.
Right.
And I want to point out one other thing. You remember that back in beginning bridge, when we learned about revaluing our hand when we're going to be dummy, that we only revalue our hand when we have a fit with partner and we see that we're going to be the dummy. And this is the reason that you do it that way. If you have a void or a singleton on the dummy side, that is worth a lot. That's just about as good as having an ace over there or king. It's valuable. That's why we revalue our hand if we can trump on the dummy side. But we don't revalue our hand when we have shortness in the declarer side. Okay, you also have to watch out, which we talked about earlier, watch out for the overruffs. If you have enough high cards in the dummy side, go ahead and ruff with the high ones. And by the way, ruff and trump mean the same thing, same words. If you can ruff with a high one on the dummy side, go ahead and do that. That eliminates the possibility of them over ruffing. Sometimes you don't have a choice in the matter, but when you do, make sure you do that. And then the final thing is, sometimes you can cross ruff, and sometimes that's the way to do it. Particularly if you have balanced amounts of trump on either side. If you have 4 and 4, well, the trump split most likely is 3-2, but it may be 4-1. If it's 4-1, you're going to have to use all your trump to pull in their trump. But when you have all the high ones, split 4-4, then if you're in the nice scenario where you have shortness on both sides, you can trump back and forth and use your trump individually. Use one from one side, one from the other, one from one side, one from the other. Sometimes you can do this from the very beginning. That can be your plan from the very beginning. Sometimes it comes up later in the hand. You can see that you will cross ruff through the rest of the hand. But the cross ruff, where you go back and forth, not having your trump fall on each other, but using them separately, is a way to get extra tricks. Now, the final part of this chapter talks about discarding your losers. And when we count the losers from the point of view of the declarer hand, we need to figure out a way to get rid of the losers out of our hand. The most normal way to do it is to discard them on trump in dummy. But another way to do it is, if you have high cards winning tricks, like no trump, winning tricks in the dummy, then you can throw losers in your hand on winners in the dummy. But you have to have winners in the dummy in order for you to be able to do that. So you need to look for that scenario. If you have the, for instance, over here, if we had the ace king of hearts, instead of the hearts being split ace king, if we had the ace king of hearts over here in dummy, that would give us an opportunity to throw a losing card away, perhaps this small club, on the winning king of hearts in dummy. So you need to look for both scenarios. You need to look for being able to eliminate losers from your hand by having shortness on the dummy side or by having winning cards on the dummy side. Either way, you can use those to eliminate your losers. This has to be part of your plan from the very beginning, because you need to figure out two things. You need to figure out how many trump you have. And so can you afford to draw trump first, or do you need to use them to trump? And in figuring out, can you throw things on a winner in dummy? You have to really pay attention to the transportation going back and forth between your hand and the dummy. If you need to get to a winner over in dummy, you need to be thinking about how many times, how many winners do I have in dummy? How many times can I go over there so that I can cash something later in the hand? Or do I need to do that up front? This is all part of the considering the order that you do things in. This is why you have to make the plan from the very beginning, because you need to consider all of these things as you're figuring out how you're going to negotiate this hand. And if you don't figure out the things from the very beginning, you're going to wind up finding winners on the board that you can't get to, so you can't toss your losers on them. Or finding yourself that you really need to trump in dummy, but you've pulled trump and now you can't do that. So those are the really important parts of considering the order that you do things in. Okay, questions on anything that we've had so far today then? Sorry, I'm having a little trouble getting back to where I need to be. There we go. Okay, so if there's no questions, that ends our review for today. Next week, we're going to start talking more about watching out for keeping the dangerous opponent off lead, for using some of these situations where we wait until the end of a hand to develop something. We're going to be talking more about the subtleties of doing all this. You now have the basics of the play of the hand. You have the basics from the making a plan handout where we talk about everything. And so the last two classes talk about how to put all of this into effect. So we're going to be spending more time doing that.
Sally, I'd just like to thank you for taking the time on a Sunday. This is just fabulous. I personally
Yes.
really appreciate the review.
Well, thank you so much. I'm really glad you do. You
Makes
know,
a lot of difference.
we had to do it in beginning bridge because people were having to miss so much, and these classes are shorter. But I'm hearing from, I wasn't too sure about whether to do them for these classes, but I'm hearing from you all, and I'm seeing that people are watching them a lot.
Yeah.
So
Thank
I
Yes.
think that's good.
Yeah,
So
thank you very much.
Thank you.
all right, you're welcome. I'm happy to do it. All
Thank
right,
you.
guys. See you Wednesday or
Bye.
Friday.
See you Wednesday.
All right,
Bye.
Friday. Thanks, Sally.
Bye.
Bye-bye.